We're going to dive into our list now. So L is for links. When I'm saying links, I'm meaning hyperlink. You want to give your hyperlinks a logical name, not click here. Tell me what I'm going to get when I click on it. You know, if you really feel the need to say click here, you can always say click here for and then have the link, or you can have the link name, you know, document X is here, whatever. We want whatever you're going to get when you follow the link, that should be the first thing in the link. And the reason is that somebody who's using a screen reader, when they're going through and reading this document, they have a way to just go from link to link to link. And if they're all click here, they're going to hear click here, click here, click here. We don't know what we're going to get, but we're going to pick one. It's very simple. You got to name it something anyway. And I should have asked this before. Do you have any sort of a campus standard where you have to have the whole URL visible? No. Okay. Some government agencies have that. In that case, there's actually a way to label the link. So you can right click on it and put a label behind it, which is what the screen reader will read, as opposed to the entire URL of the hyperlink. Preferable unless people need to be able to see the link, which if you're printing something, sometimes it's good for them to actually be able to see the link and not just be able to link out to it. But in your courses, things like that, people don't really need to be able to see the link, so you can actually just name it. The other thing that goes along with this is please refrain from using underlining for anything except your hyperlinks. So those of us with pretty silver sparkles, we were taught. That was part of the standard that we were taught when I went through school. No more. If you look in your MLA style guides or your, how to do a bibliography, they don't use underlining anymore. Underlining is something for hyperlinks. If you've been using underlining for other things, you may have these very surreal conversations with your students where they would say things like, I was working on that document last night and it was broken. And you say, well, could you open it? And they say, yeah, but it was broken. Communication has not occurred. What they're saying to you is, you had something underlined, I tried to click on it, nothing happened, therefore you have a broken document. We got a pretty big generation gap going on right now, guys, so be very aware of this. So yeah, just drop the underlining. Bold's fine, italic's fine, color with bold, color with italic is fine, but drop the underlining. I've actually seen people who do color and italic and underlining. It's like, really? Everything that I'm going to talk to you about today is of benefit not just for individuals with disabilities, but for you as the document creator as well. And this one, I've talked to people who've had this issue. They've made edits. They moved from Blackboard to Moodle, or Canvas in your case, or Moodle to Canvas. And suddenly, links that used to say click here are not working anymore. Well, what was that? I don't know what that was. Or I went in and edited my document and somehow I got rid of all the text there, but I just had this click here left because it was lurking on the next page. Well, now you spend half an hour trying to figure out what the heck was that thing because the link's not working anymore. And sometimes you figure it out and sometimes you don't figure out. If you just gave it a logical name in the first place, you'd immediately see, that was the syllabus for that year, or the standards for that time, or whatever. We have to worry about that. We don't have to worry about it, whatever. If you're a person who uses a lot of links in your documents, a lot of hyperlinks, it also makes it very easy to visually go through and see, did I include everything I want to include? Let's see, there's the syllabus, there's the grading policy. Oh gosh, I forgot the due dates, whatever it might be. So this is not just good for other people, it's good for you as well. So now we're going to actually go and see how we do this. So we would like you please to open your 01 formatting activity. 01 formatting activity. So we have our bear there, our California state mammal. So also please go to the file that says 01A URL for list of state mammals and open that one as well, please. Now when you're creating a link, but what I would like you to do please in the 01A URL for list of state mammals file, please select that hyperlink and then you can right click and copy or Control C for copy. By the way, if you really want to save time in your life, learn to use keyboard shortcuts. They save you so much time. It's kind of non-intuitive in the beginning, but man, once you do, you never go back. They don't change as often either as the menu structure does. Okay, so we've all copied. We're good with copying the URL? Okay, very good. So now we can go back into our 01 formatting activity that has our bear there. And right above the bear's rump, we have the words state mammal. I want to highlight the words state mammal and then right click on them and look for hyperlink. That will open your insert hyperlink window. And right down there at the bottom of the window And in fact, the cursor comes up there automatically. It should be flashing where it says address. Go ahead and paste. So you can do Control V and paste or right click and paste. You want to paste your URL in there. Boom! You just made a hyperlink. You made a hyperlink that is accessible. That was not hard. Now if you want to see the list, because it's Word, you have to hold down the Control key. If it were already online, you could just click on it. That is how you create a hyperlink. Now, by the way, folks who are working on your courses, if you have documents on your computer that you're linking out to from your Canvas course, those are not going to be available when you go to a different computer. Put them into your Canvas course or put them onto the web before you link to them. Very important, because otherwise other people cannot go onto your computer, and that's a good thing, but just be aware of that, because I've had faculty members say to me, do you know why it is I worked on my course all weekend at home and I came in to work on Monday and it's not working? None of my hyperlinks are working? Well, yeah, because you linked to them on your computer. So just be aware of that. We're going to go on to I is for images, and this is our brief text description, our brief alt text that we're going to be putting onto the graphic. If the graphic is simply decoration and you have no other way to deal with it, you can put it as an ivy border. You can say something short like ivy border. If you have the ability to set it as background or to set it as decorative, we're going to look at that in Canvas. But then for those ones that are informative, you do want the students to know that they're there. You want them to know about them. That's where you're going to describe it as succinctly as you can. And again, the new version of Word in PowerPoint do have that checkbox, the older version, so you do have to put something on it, have a brief description. I actually think that labeling images is kind of fun, but then, I'm a little bit different anyway. But I always think it kind of requires out-of-the-box thinking. I have a friend that I present with sometimes at the national level, and we'll be working on our presentations together, and we'll be labeling the graphics. And I swear, every time he comes up with a better description than I do. But I am determined, one of these days, I am going to write a better description. The other thing is, that text now becomes searchable online. If you're creating a web page, or I was talking earlier with someone about the employability of students when they graduate, people now who are hiring in Silicon Valley, accessibility is a big deal there. It's actually being written now into people's job descriptions. And if you have a student who has some understanding of these things, that makes them much more employable in certain markets. And one of the reasons is that Google search looks at those alt text fields. So all of that alt text is now searchable online, which means that your website immediately has a higher hit on Google. And that's a big deal for people in commerce. The other thing is that when you're in PDF or if you publish it to the web, you will see that alt text on mouse over. And so that means that other people who may have some other issues other than blindness, but who don't do well with graphics, it really clarifies for them the purpose of the graphic. Also remember, you're writing these descriptions for your students because you're creating your own materials here. If for your students, they're, use particular technical terminology, use it. There's no reason not to. You're writing the description for your students. You're not doing this some generic homepage thing for every person out there in the universe. You're doing it for your students in your courses. So it reinforces vocabulary very nicely. Okay, so let's look at how to actually create your alt format. So we're going to right click. So we got our bear there. We want to right click on our bear, anywhere on the bear. And then right at the bottom of the little mini menu that comes up, you have Format Picture. So we are going to choose Format Picture. And when you choose Format Picture, it will open this pane on the side here, and it has, on the right-hand side, and it has a number of icons up at the top. We want the one that looks like a box with a four-headed arrow in it. When you mouse over it, it says Layout and Properties. We want that Layout and Properties box. So because this is the older version of Word, we will not have the decorative checkbox yet. It's only the brand new one that just came out like 6 months ago. Okay, so under your Layout and Properties, notice that you have Alt Text as the second choice there. So just open that, click on the little down arrow, or the little arrow, and it will open it out there. And you have two fields on display when you open out Alt Text. It says Title and Description. This is the hardest thing I'm going to teach you. Everybody listen up, because this is very hard to find online, and I'm not kidding about that. You can spend hours. Ignore title. Nothing goes in title. Just leave it blank. Nothing goes in there. You're going to put your description where it says description. How you do that? That is how you describe your graphic. you put it here in description. Ignore title. How do we want to describe our graphic? Bear. Bear is fine. If you happen to know it's a California grizzly bear, I'm going to go with California grizzly bear. Something else to know about this window, no spell check. I've ended up with a grizzly brar. I've ended up with a grizzly bear, and occasionally an actual grizzly bear. So if, like me, your fingers sometimes get ahead of your brain, you can type it somewhere else and then copy and paste it in there, because you can paste into that window. Yeah, not typically, unless there's a reason to. If you need to use it, you can. Screen readers will pay attention to it, but no, you don't need to use that. You don't need to use complete sentences, just whatever. If I were teaching zoology, I might instead want to label my bear Ursus arctos californicus, which is its scientific name. And that would be fine, because again, it's for your students. This is not for the general public. If they're expected to look at that and go, that's an Ursus arctos californicus, label it that, because that's going to, again, reinforce it for everybody. When they mouse over it in the PDF, they'll see that. And for some of your students who have attention issues, suddenly having that little pop-up, which is very small and very specific, is actually really, really helpful to them. So yes, blind students have to have it, but it actually can be useful for many of your students. I had a physiology instructor. He was quite baffled. He said, how am I going to label my graphics? I said, just label them with what they are. You know, this is the pelvic girdle. It's, you know, the tibia and fibula, whatever it might be. That's it. Don't try and put a tome on your poor little tiny graphic. It can't support it. It doesn't need it. That's all you need to do. Okay, now, the other thing that's new in the brand new version of Word, I can't show you because you don't have it yet. Most people don't have it, actually. It's so new. It will also try to help you. It will label graphics for you. Now, that sounds like a really idea until you remember this is Microsoft labeling your graphics. Keep that in mind. You always want to check and see what it said. Sometimes it does a pretty good job. Sometimes it's like, really? No. But again, you know why you've got it there. Okay, let's scroll down a little bit. We have some poppies down here. That's it. Oh yeah, that's the other hard thing. There's no save button. I had a faculty member say that she spent like 2 hours on the internet trying to find the save button. There's no save button. You just click off of it, it auto-saves, and you're fine. Okay, so now I'm going to go down to the poppies. I'm going to scroll down to the California poppy down there. And when I mouse over my poppy, look at all this text. What is all this garbage? It's a hyperlink to a Google search. Oh yeah, not even to the actual site. Eventually gets to the actual site, but yes, it's to the search that I did to find this graphic. You can have hyperlinks lurking on your graphics in your document. If somebody clicks on this poppy, are they going to go to that website? Darn tootin'. They will leave your document and boom, be somewhere on the internet and probably be going, is this part of the test? Am I supposed to be doing something with this? This can happen. Less common in Canvas, but it can happen in Canvas as well if you've copied a graphic from the internet. So just be very, very aware of that if you're copying graphics. It's pretty subtle in Canvas. In Canvas, there's like a little link up there, and it will be broken normally, but then when you are in something that has a link, it sort of puts it together, but it's kind of hard to see. So it's pretty subtle in Canvas, but in Word, it's pretty easy. When I right-click on this graphic in Word, notice on my mini menu that comes up now, there is a choice there that says Remove Hyperlink. Whenever you see that, do that. Remove that hyperlink. And now, once I've chosen Remove Hyperlink, now when I mouse over it, it's gone. It's not there anymore. So just be aware, if you've copied something from the internet, you may need to remove the graphic. Remove the hyperlink from the graphic so that it doesn't confuse things. Okay, now that I've gotten rid of the hyperlink, and it doesn't matter which order that you do this in, but now I'm going to do my description. So this is actually the California poppy, and we're good to go. Every image, add some alt text unless you can check it as decorative. One or the other should be on every image that you use. Watch out for those lurking hyperlinks because they can possibly be on there and you don't really want to do that. Oh, there is one other thing with images that I didn't mention. Not going to be an issue for you in Canvas because it's the default and you don't have any choice about it. But in Word, place the image in line. What does that mean? It's actually pretty easy. The default is to put it in line. When you copy it in there, it's going to be in line. Do not wrap text around it. If you like to do kind of fancy looking design stuff and you want to have text next to your graphic, I'm going to show you how to do that at the end of the class in a way that does not break accessibility. It's not hard, it's easy to do, but you don't want to wrap the text around it. The reason is, as soon as you've wrapped the text around it, It treats the graphic differently. It's now kind of floating in this weird Microsoft meta land. And other programs do not know what to do with it. They're really not quite sure how to handle it. So when you take it out to a PDF, it looks like it's there. But if you go in and try and change the accessibility at that point and add, say, missing alt text, you can literally, and I've had this happen, you can literally end up with a completely blank page in the middle of your PDF. And it's gone. There's no undo. It's gone forever. Boom. We don't want to do that. We want to make sure it's inside of the text. You can get the same effect using columns, and I will show you how to do that at the end, but really important, make sure it's inline. As I mentioned in Canvas, it's your only choice because Canvas is based on HTML, and HTML treats them inline. And then remember, just as a reminder, if they have important text inside of them, you need to include that important text in your alt text description. That's I for images. Any questions on I for images? We're going to go on to S. S is for structure. And in Microsoft Word, S is for styles. Really, S is for styles. Now, this one checkpoint of our list is where we have the greatest differences between different programs. And if you think about that, that makes sense because the structure of Canvas, the structure of Word, the structure of Excel, the structure of PowerPoint, the structure of the program itself is really different. So, of course, this is going to be a little bit different because the programs themselves are a little bit different in this particular area. But the primary thing with structure in Word, in Canvas, in InDesign, in Excel, all of them is to use headings. And when you're using your headings, and we're talking about, what you're used to like in books. Your heading, chapter 1 is the heading, and then there's a subhead under that, and a subhead under that. That's what we're talking about with headings. Now, you want to use your headings in order. It's called nesting. So you first have a heading 1, and then maybe a heading 2, maybe a heading 3, maybe you go back to 2. But as you're going down, you want to go down in order. You don't want to skip. You don't want to jump from 1 to 3. Or what I see some people do in Microsoft Word is, I use heading 4 because I like the way it looks better. Okay, I'm going to show you how to fix that, guys. And I get that. I don't like heading 1 in Word either. I don't think it's very attractive. Just me, just saying. But you want to use them in order. Don't skip numbers. The other really important style to use is your lists, and I need to take index out because we never get there. But lists, bulleted lists, numbered lists, all of those lists are important to use. Why? Why either one of them? Headings are important because when someone's using a screen reader, they can tell their screen reader, tell me what the next heading is. Take me to the next heading. So they become navigation points with a screen reader. Otherwise, if I don't have any navigation points in there, I'm stuck. I got to start at the beginning and read the whole darn thing, even if all I want to know is your due dates. And gosh, if you put a heading above your due dates and you need to go in and change them, it is so quick to do that. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just a couple minutes. So that's why headings are important. And by the way, even if you have a very, very short document, you always need at least a heading 1. You don't need to have anything beyond that necessarily, depends on the structure of the document, but even on a one-page document, you want to start it with a heading 1. It always should have a heading 1. Whatever your title of the document is, should be a heading 1. By the way, on your pages in Canvas, it reserves heading 1 for itself. Up there where you put the title on your page in Canvas, that is automatically a heading 1. If you want additional headings, you have to tell it that you want additional headings, but it will make that one a heading 1 for you. It can be a little bit confusing to those of us who are used to using headings, because we'll look and go, where'd heading 1 go? Why is there no heading 1 in the rich content editor? And we'll look at the rich content editor at the end, but just know that it did it for you. It's trying to help you. Why lists? Well, if all you've done with your lists is put bullets in front of them, the screen reader doesn't understand formatting. It doesn't know what a bullet is. So it does not understand that those things with that funny symbol in front of it all go together. But if you've used the style, if you've made it a list style, then the screen reader goes, oh, I ran into a list style, and look, there's 6 of them in a row, and it'll announce, we have a list. The list has 6 items. Very useful if you have a student taking a test to know how many options do I have here in the multiple choice test. Kind of nice to know before you just randomly encounter them, especially if you don't have them numbered, especially if you just have a bullet in front. Then it's like, I don't even know when I've gotten out of the options for this question and into the next question. How would you know? Think about it. If you can't see it, how would you know? You just hear all this stuff. So really important to use those. And by the way, I will point this out again when we're in there, but it's very important with lists and bullet lists and numbered lists to use the styles from your styles pane that I'm going to show you in a minute. not from the ribbon. Let me say that again. There's a place on the ribbon where it shows a little bullet and little numbers. Do not use those for your lists. Yeah, sorry if you've been using them. I will show you, I hope I have time to do this. I'll show you a quick fix for that. But yeah, the reason is it doesn't apply to styles. Yes, I'll get there in 1 second. Yeah, I'll show you that when I get there. The other thing here with structure, and this is true not just in Word but in PowerPoint, do not draw your own boxes to put text in. They're called text boxes. Again, it goes into that Microsoft Meta land. It doesn't know what to do with them. It doesn't see them as text that's actually on the page. It sees them as sort of floating in this other weird space, and it can't deal with that. So you just want to avoid them. There's not very many things I'm going to say just don't, but this is the one. Don't use text boxes. It was so ironic because UW, University of Washington, is noted as a campus that's very dedicated to accessibility. They had a new designer come in, did a PowerPoint template that every single official presentation done by anybody from the campus was supposed to use, rather than using the standard template they'd been using for years, which was based on the Microsoft boxes where, you know, you click and it says type text here. That's all you have to do. Where it says type text there, type the text there. Good, you're golden with PowerPoint. No, the person had drawn their own text box. Boom, no longer accessible. And that's not an easy one to come back from in PowerPoint. No, it's not. Sorry, it's really not. Yeah, you got to copy and paste it into a new one. I spent hours trying to find an easy button for you guys on that one. There's just not. So styles are just hugely valuable for you. I mean, honestly, they benefit you far more than they do the students with disabilities. I mean, yes, navigation's great. I can live without it if I have to. If I got to read the whole document anyway, I can live without the headings. Not a big deal. If you don't have bullets, no, not a huge deal. It's still at least basically usable, even though if it's not fun to use. We can read ASCII. May not like to, but we can do it. But from your perspective, you will save yourself so much time once you learn how to use styles. And I am not kidding. I'm talking hours. You will save yourself hours of time once you really learn how to do this. Your document navigation is enormously improved. I'm going to show you in a minute a cool thing you can do with the document pane where literally if you want to rearrange your document, you can drag and drop whole sections. Boom. Literally takes you 2 seconds to move whole sections around. Automatic table of contents. I've had a couple people who were in master's programs in these classes and they were like, we're not worthy. We're not worthy. I mean, seriously, they were just so blown away. They don't have to do a manual table of contents. Automatic. Go in and make changes to your headings. Boom. Automatically update. Make changes to the page numbers. Boom. Automatically update. Literally takes you seconds. And I'm not kidding about that. Hugely beneficial once you learn how to do it. So I want to say a little bit more about headings because some people are a little confused about headings. It is just that heading structure. Main heading is 1, the next, your first subheading is 2, next subheading is 3, working your way down that way. Here's an example from a syllabus of how you might use headings. In this particular case, my heading 1 is black and centered, and then after that, my heading 2s are blue and left aligned. My heading 3s are, and they're all uppercase. My heading 3s are upper and lowercase, and they're also slightly indented. So that's just a quick example of how you might use headings in something simple like a syllabus. So in general, now Canvas again sets this all for you, the font size and all of that, but if you are making Word documents to go into PDF documents that you're putting online, 11 to 12 point font for your body text is a good size. The default is Calibri at 11, and that's fine. You also, if it's going to be read online, you want to use fonts that are easy to read online. And those fonts are your sans serif fonts. And they're the very straight and spare looking ones. Arial is one, Tahoba, Calibri, Verdana is one of my personal favorites. There's lots of very simple, straight looking fonts, the sans serif fonts. Things that are serif fonts, like Times New Roman, classic serif font, Palatino, Garamond. You want to avoid, those are great on paper, by the way, and that's what they're designed for, is to be read on paper. They're easier to read on paper. They're harder to read online, because all those serifs, which are all the little whoop-de-doos and curly-cues and fiddly bits that are on them, become so much fuzziness online. So it's much easier to use a sans serif font. You want to avoid using the Enter key for extra spacing. That's where you go, enter, enter, enter to get to a new page. Yeah, no. I'm going to show you a different way to do that. By the way, that's a really bad habit to get in for you, because once you go in and make any change on the page, and if you don't notice it, you can come back and find a big white space in the middle of your page. And of course, you never see it till you print it. And then it's like, oh, now I got to go back and redo it. So I'm going to show you how to cause a page break when you want one, so you're not using the Enter key for extra spacing. If you're just using one between paragraphs, not the best habit, but it's okay. The screen reader can live with that. But when it sees more than one, it will start reading them to the student. It will literally say blank, blank, blank. Because if you got 5 of them in there, it must be important. I'm just a dumb screen reader. I don't know why it might be important, but I see it. It must be important. And so if you've done something like on the first page of your document, because it's a fancy document, you want to space down so that your heading is visually centered, and you got like 12 Enter keys to do that, the student's going to hear blank, 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 blank. And at that point, they're probably going to be wondering what's wrong with this document. We also want to avoid using the space bar for multiple spaces. You can use a tab key if you really need to just space it over. But the thing that I see people using the space bar for the most is trying to center a heading. You have a centering tool, folks. You just click on it, and it will go in the center. And you don't have to count spaces or do anything else. You just click on it and go center. Boom, you're in the center. So we want to avoid using the space bar because, again, it can do the blank, blank, blank thing.